Greetings. This is Pastor Kevin Baird again. I pastor Legacy Church here in Charleston, South Carolina. And this is the second part of a two-part lesson with regards to what pastors are looking for when it comes to tapping people for leadership in the life of the local church. Not just anyone can be a leader. I don't believe everyone probably is designed to be a leader. However, I also know that there are indeed probably a lot more leaders than perhaps anyone has ever considered. So we're just doing our best to sow some precepts into you. Many of our aspiring leaders at Legacy Church will be tapping into the YouTube presentations. It's just a good way for me to give reminders and to sow into people some aspects of what a pastor looks for and what I in particular look for when it comes to soliciting leadership at Legacy. Now, in part one, you can find it. We've already gone through 8 different areas that I generally look for with regards to leadership. I'm going to go through the next 7 of them right now, but we'll start with number 9. Number 9 is I look for people who are loyal. Loyalty is a big thing. Loyalty in the kingdom, number 1, and then loyalty to pastors' leadership and loyalty to their local church. You know, anything that's done is done well with longevity. There has to be a longevity of relationship that can do a work in a city or in a region. It's very difficult to do church work, watching leadership rotate through every year. And so it's going to take a commitment and a loyalty to do the work that God has called that local church to do. There has to be a knitting, there has to be a confidence, there has to be a trust with everyone. In fact, ministry really is built on trust and confidence. The minute trust and confidence is undermined in any way, shape, or form, and that's a two-way street. You know, if pastors lose the trust of their congregation or the confidence of the people, it affects the work of the ministry. But likewise, if a pastor loses his confidence or trust in those who are providing leadership, then that shuts things down as well. So loyalty, a two-way street, but it's an important concept, and pastors are looking for loyal people. Number 10, faithful people. We've touched on this under the other points in some form or fashion. Faithful to me means you can count on them. You can count on them being there. You can count on them doing what you ask them to do. You can count on them taking whatever it is you hand them, and that person will run with it. I'll be honest with you, I have pastored now for nearly 25 years, been in the ministry for over 30 years. And I can tell you something very interesting. People want to be leaders. I think at times they like the title perhaps that it comes with. Maybe they like a few of the perks. There aren't many that come with it. Maybe that's what they like. But what's really hard to find is that once they step into their leadership, that they have to massively shift their understanding from all of their options that they had perhaps when they were a general church member to now they're a leader. For example, in Legacy, I want my leaders to give me a buzz, call me on the phone if they're going to be away from church or some event. I like to know when they're out of town and where they're at because they're leaders. I don't ask everybody in the church to let me know what's going on, but leadership needs to let someone know what's going on in their life. It's a part of being faithful. And one of the hardest parts, it seems like, when people want to aspire into leadership is to transition from their options that they have when they wake up on Sunday morning to now the expectations that they have on them when they are now a leader. We need faithful people. Number 11, integrity. Integral people. I mean, leaders, man, they have to have their integrity. If they don't have integrity, really they don't have much there either. In fact, the word integrity, I believe from the Latin, literally means whole. And we usually associate it with regards to how we operate in life. If a person operates in integrity, what it means is that there's an honesty, there is a consistency that exists in their life. What it really means is, by being whole, is that there's no duplicity. In other words, what you see in public is how they act in private. There's an integrity. How they would handle perhaps their own personal finances with care and consideration. If they were given oversight, let's say, to the church finances, they would handle it with equal care and consideration. Integrity. Integrity is treating members of the opposite gender correctly and appropriately. That's integrity. Integrity is making sure that your reputation, in as much as it is possible, is protected so people can't easily throw accusation at you. Integrity is incredibly important as a leader. Number 12, here at Legacy, I want folks to have what we call my spiritual DNA. You know, every pastor sort of has a way of doing things. There is a life's message, there is a protocol, there is a spirit that accompanies a man, woman of God, the pastoral team. And we believe in a DNA download. There's a culture of the church. There's a DNA in a local church. Not every church functions the same way. Even in the book of Acts, we have the church at Jerusalem, and then we have the church at Antioch. And both were New Testament churches. Jerusalem was very Jewish and more traditional in its culture, but yet at Antioch it was extremely Gentile and spontaneous, not as traditional. And yet both of these churches are New Testament churches, yet each of these churches had their own unique culture, or what I call a DNA. And it is extremely important that leaders have the DNA of the house. They have the DNA of the pastor. Because can you imagine how difficult it would be to pull leaders out of a Jerusalem and have them function in an Antioch, or leaders at an Antioch and come and function at Jerusalem? And so they have to adjust. And so we have people come to our church and they've transferred to our town, or perhaps they've come from other churches in town, and there was a way of doing it at their old church. But now that they come to Legacy, or in your instance, if they come to your church, there's a culture there, and they have to learn, again, to adapt and be flexible, to be teachable, and all the things we've already mentioned in order to receive the DNA of that local congregation. It's a very important aspect of leadership. Number 13, tithers. Leaders are invested in their local church. We believe tithing is a biblical principle. We believe Malachi 3 teaches that tithing is what positions us before God in a faithful manner that allows the windows of heaven to be opened, for blessings to be poured forth, to rebuke the devourer, to remove curses. Tithing is a value within our local church. And so we expect leaders who are going to link arms and walk with us to be tithers as well. Now, I don't know if everybody in our local church is tithing, but I do know that all of our leadership needs to be tithing, because we want to link arms with those who are sacrificing, who are being faithful, being obedient, walking with us arm in arm, and pulling the full load of this local church. It's just a non-negotiable, so they need to be tithers. Number 14, they need to be prayers. Leaders have to pray. You can't be in leadership and not know how to pray. Now, that would be an expectation, I would suppose, in every Christian's life, we would hope. And we would also hope that behind the scenes and through the week, that everybody's having their personal prayer time and everybody's having their devotional moments. But we have an expectation that when there are corporate moments of prayer, that leadership be there. It's the time, again, we can agree as leaders, as a church. The church can see their leadership functioning in prayer, modeling prayer. And so there's just that expectation that if you can't pray, you're probably not fit to be in leadership. And then number 15, and this is sort of the chemistry aspect of leadership. You know, as pastor, I interact and probably work with leaders more than any other group of people in the life of the church. I'm going to interact with my leadership probably more than anyone else. I want to touch everyone's life, but I'm going to invest in those that are helping me do the work of the ministry. So number 15 is really a chemistry issue, and I would put it this way. Are your leaders a blessing or are they a burden? I want people who can be a blessing. Now that doesn't necessarily mean they have to say yes to everything I say, but I certainly don't want someone who is hard-hearted or stiff-necked or is a burden or it's just wearisome to always be around them. We want people who can be a blessing, people who are a joy, people who are on board with the vision, people who want to see the kingdom grow, people that are for you and don't feel like they're against you. And so these 15 items that I've mentioned to you in this 2-part mini-series here on YouTube is just simply some of the initial questions that as a pastor I will ask myself when we're looking to tap leaders. Now, when they're first tapped, they may not have all these things in order. They may have a few of these things that are going to need some help, and we'll evaluate that and we'll ask ourselves, do we think that they have the teachability to be able to step up and fully be able to function in one of these 15 areas. And so we understand not everybody may be right there when we initially touch them, but we do believe everybody has the capacity to embrace that in a relatively short amount of time if they're going to be leaders in the local church. So again, for legacy, this is sort of my initial list. In your local church, you may produce a different list, but use it. And as you use it, enlarge it, expand it, make it better. But make sure that you're reaching out and you're tooling your leadership so that you can be as impactful and as faithful in your local church and in your local region as you can be. Thanks again for listening. God bless you. Until next time, this is Kevin Baird from Legacy Church.